not a specific school, but they're like a program.
You're with the paper.
No, I work for county government.
I'm so sorry. That's all right.
The item reporter was in the other room.
Okay, my apologies.
No worries.
If you could.
Her name's Shelby Golder. Blue jeans and a light colored sweater.
Blue jeans, like, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Have a nice day.
Dave, you said you was turning it off? Yeah, turn them on. So it records.
I think it's not after faces actually No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Is this the
Yeah,
one?
yeah, that's right.
Okay. This is where you need to stop.
Is there, do I have to sit?
Hold on just a second. No, it's on, it's just right there. Well, that's it. It's let you. What you should have done is come over and not talking to each other like you said.
Okay.
So, when you go and do this right here, I'll just pull up what I have. And you can still talk. And I'll show you what I thought.
I'll try to call that in. Zoning that up. I'll try to say no from Shane.
Yeah, I think that, when she said, let me look at it. This one, Jim? Well, just scroll down. That's the other one. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I technically did. Oh, just a second. Mr. Chairman, there was a technical difficulty there, so we were gonna try to get Jeff's report shown one way or the other, either through my report or, he'll just have to, read it, okay?
Okay.
And I,
We'll go ahead and get started.
okay?
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Sorry for the delay. I'd like to call the regular meeting for Tuesday, January 11th for Sumter County Council to order. May we all please stand for the invocation and pledge. Ms. B, would you please give us an invocation?
Sure. Let us pray. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you as the one in whom we live and move and have our being. We realize that we could not have made it this far without you, and we're thankful. We're so thankful to have been able to get through 2021, and now we're into a new year, our first meeting, and we thank you for that. We thank you for everyone under the sound of my voice, and ask that you would just bless this meeting, help us to feel your presence as we go through our agenda. We ask you to continue to bless our men and women who are serving in uniform, especially those who are serving in harm's way. We ask your blessings upon all families that have been touched by the COVID-19, and we just ask that you just be with us throughout this pandemic. We see the numbers, but we can see that there's a decline in deaths according to the magnitude of those that have been affected. And we thank you for that. We ask you to continue to heal our land and to continue to get into our hearts that we will be obedient so that we can receive that healing. And we ask that as we go through our agenda, we have the wisdom and understanding to take action on everything in your way, and that we will accomplish everything that you have ordained for this evening. These are all blessings we ask in the matchless name of the one that we call Savior. And let everyone say amen.
Amen. Our pledge of allegiance will be read by our former Sheriff Major Alan Daly. Welcome back.
Mr. Chairman?
What's that you got on your face?
Mr. Alan Daly entered the United States Air Force in July 1977 as an aircraft maintenance technician and obtained the rank of Staff Sergeant. He served for approximately 9 years while being stationed at Shore Air Force Base, South Carolina, and Ellison Air Force Base, Alaska. He was honorably discharged in May of 1986. At this time, he was hired as a deputy with the Sumter County Sheriff's Office, where he served for the last 35 years and retiring as the rank of major in 2021. He graduated with a bachelor's degree from St. Leo University in 1983 and obtained a master's degree from Troy State University in 2008. He also served as an adjunct professor at the University of South Carolina, Sumter. He's married to his wife of 21 years, Jenny, and has 3 sons, 2 of them being veterans. He currently resides in County Council District 3.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Jimmy Bird, who has District 3, is out tonight, so it's my pleasure to present this certificate to you. And thank you for your service both to our nation and to the Sheriff's Department. Mr. Mixon, is there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I would ask council if they would please remove item number 2 under section 7, other public hearings, ordinance 21-970. Remove it there, as well as under old business, ordinance 21-970, second reading. This was a request from staff to amend the county's operational budget to use up to $150,000 out of our general fund. We have identified another source of revenue to replace the fire truck that was in an accident, so there's no need to amend our budget at this time.
Have a motion to approve the revised budget, agenda, please.
Been moved by Mr. Daly, seconded by Mr. Eads, that we approve the amended agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now I have to have a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting from Tuesday, December 14th, and from our special meeting from County Council also on December 14th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Baker, seconded by Mr. Gainey, that we approve the regular meeting minutes and the special meetings. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Okay, item number 6, land use matters, rezoning request number 2124 601 Pitts Road.
Good evening, Chairman, County Council members, Jeff Durwood of the Planning Department. This is a rezoning request for property at 601 Pitts Road. The applicant is Destinations Day Spa. They're the authorized agent for the property owner. This is a request to rezone 5.8 acres from the residential 15 zoning district to the agricultural conservation zoning district. Have a location map, and I can supplement by showing you. It's also in your staff reports. Location is outlined in red. This property is on the eastern side of Pittsville Road. It's about halfway between Wedgefield and McCrae's Mill Road. So property is zoned R15. It is surrounded by R15 zoning. It's slightly north of some residential neighborhoods, some existing residential neighborhoods, but it's not directly adjacent to those established subdivisions. In your report, there's an aerial photography of the site. It's an existing commercial building. This rezoning is being requested to reuse the building for commercial purposes. Got some site pictures. This was the location of a church. That was the prior use that was located there. Prior to that, was a private membership organization. The property is located within regulatory. So with the comprehensive plan, the property is influenced by the suburban development planning area as well as the conservation planning area. The conservation planning area influence is due to the floodplain location on the property. The suburban area is closer to the city. This planning area is characterized by separation of uses, strict view of what uses are going where, and making sure uses do not conflict with each other. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request. It's noted that this is a rezoning from R15 to the AC district. It's generally supported by comp plan policies. Subject property has been it's been improved. It's historically been used for non-residential purposes, as well buffered and not immediately adjacent to the established residential subdivision. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Do we know what commercial use intention is?
My understanding, and the applicant can address if they're here, is that it's going to be an event of some type for
That's basically what it's been the last 25 years anyway.
like special events.
What's council's pleasure?
Move for first reading.
Second. Been moved by Mr. Evans, seconded by Mr. Baker, that we have first reading on RZ 2124. Any discussion?
One more question. Is this being, once it's rezoned the AC, will that be a conditional use 300 or 500?
It's a conditional use 300 with some additional review conditions that were recently adopted by county council.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of having first reading of RZ 2104, 601 Pitts Road, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. First reading of RZ 2124 is passed. RZ 2122, Thomas Sumter Highway.
Okay, this is RZ 2122, 4189 Thomas Sumter Highway and 4185 Thomas Sumter Highway is the location of the property. The applicant is Christopher Patton, who's authorized agent for the property owner, and this is a request to rezone 2 parcels totaling 1.35 acres in size from general commercial and agricultural conservation to straight general commercial. So right now the property is within 2 zoning districts. They're looking to bring the entire thing into the general commercial district. Location map of the property is in red. It is what we refer to as a flag lot, meaning it has a narrow bit of frontage on Thomas Sumter Highway, and it opens up in the back for the developable area. It is, like I mentioned, it is 2 parcels of land. The applicant is planning to utilize the property to establish an automotive dealer business that wouldn't be allowed in the AC district. The lot is the lot at 4185 Thomas Sumter Highway has been developed and does contain 2 commercial buildings. This is the former location of the Right Way Plumbing. They recently moved to their new site. And the lot at 4189 Thomas Sumter Highway is not developed and is currently vacant. With the zoning map, the front portion of the property taking up the small area that comes to Thomas Sumter right away and a little bit further back is actually in the general commercial district already. So really what we're talking about is the green area, the AC area, and rezoning that piece to general commercial so the business, the applicant use the property. Aerial photography, there's like I mentioned, there's existing buildings on one piece, and the other piece is undeveloped. The property is within the military protection planning area. This is a future land use designation designed to protect Air Force Base, points at electronic range, etc. So the EPA recommends commercial and agricultural and industrial uses that will not result in a significant concentration of people. So that type of development is supported in the MPA, and rezoning to the general commercial district would support that aim. So the request, staff did find the request aligns with the comp plan. And Planning Commission also recommended approval of the request, noting that on balance, the rezoning the subject property is consistent with the commercial development pattern that already exists along Thomas Sumter Highway in the vicinity of the subject property. Additionally, it will remove a split zoning designation that serves as an impediment to effective development with the zoning ordinance. And finally, it is consistent with the 2040 comprehensive plan. I'll have to answer any questions for staff.
Any questions? Prior to having second reading, we'll have a public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please proceed to the podium, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Jamie Doyle. I live probably 2 lots closer to Charles Jackson from this property. I really don't have a for or against, just more of a general question, which is that my concern is we already had a hit and run fatality along that side of Thomas Sumter Highway. And I'm just wondering if they're, with the Planning Commission, if they're planning on putting in any lights, sidewalks, anything, if we're going to be putting in more possible foot traffic along that area, because it's extremely dark. It's not the greatest road for people to be walking on. And that would be my statement question.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Chairman, I'm Christopher Patton. I am the person that is requesting the rezoning. I just wanted to let you guys know who I am and our plans. So, like it says, we are trying to develop a used car lot there, pre-owned vehicles. I've been in Sumter, South Carolina for about 3 years now. I'm about to retire out of the Air Force, and I'm planning on making Sumter my home. This has just been my passion for the last 15 years, vehicles, cars. I just found a knack for it, and I'm taking the dive in, ready to set up and make a home here. I'm tired of moving. So if you guys have any questions about our plans or what we're trying to do, I'm here today.
Mr. Dowd, Mr. Patton, you heard the question from Mr. Dowd. Any plans for lighting or anything like that?
According to the, I'm not familiar where Jackson Road is.
It's Charles Jackson. I live right on Bradham, right past that corner right there. If you look at the two roads, it's right before the gas station.
Okay. Oh, next to the Dalzell gas station.
Yes.
Okay. So the property is a little bit further down. As far as lighting that side, I don't know of any plans for that. The entrance to the business would be on Thomas Sumter Highway, right where that driveway is.
All right, Mr. Patton. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council? Hearing none, public comment section is closed.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to comment real quick on, if I could. This is and this has already been a commercial business here anyway. I'm comfortable with it. I know we do have a street light. We did put up a county street light at Charles Jackson and Thomas Sumter Highway. Maybe we could go across the road and put up one there, but usually, I don't know that it'll meet the criteria to put one up over there, but we can check it. But I know we've tried to get some used car lots in Dalzell, and it's hard to get them, so I think this is gonna work out good. I hope it goes well with you, and I will be in full support of this.
I have a question and a concern, Tim. I'm looking at the overview of this area. Is there going to be some type of buffer between the lots that people live in? Is this homes that are in these lots where this car lot is going to be or should live? Is there any concern from the citizens?
I can answer that. Those lots are really deep. They don't use the back end of those lots. The houses are all up on the street. I'm real familiar with this neighborhood. I don't see that being a problem, to be honest with you, Gene. But most of the homes have something, a fence or something back there with trees back there behind it already, I think.
Have this been advertised to the citizens in the area? Have they?
Have been. I've seen the sign of it. Yeah.
So there's no
I know a lot of people on that street right there, and I haven't had a call from any concern about that.
Yeah, because I had a similar thing on Myrtle Beach Highway where guys put up a truck and was sitting right on the property line of the individual, and it looks a mess, you know.
I think my biggest concern would be, and you can't get them to do it, DOT, is to give us some entrances where if you're coming and want to make a left, you know, you got to go all the way up here and then do a U-turn and come back. But that's DOT, and it's hard to get them to. The daycare is a good example. They would bother.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, that's kind of my concern. Like, I'm not against any kind of a business. It's more that it's the safety of the entrances and people, you know, anything that's gonna have foot traffic. Because it's really just that stretch of road. I don't think the noise or anything like that, like he said, our lots are extremely deep, and I'm pretty close to where he's gonna be putting it, and I can't even see the daycare from my backyard. Like, even if I walk all the way to my back fence, you cannot see those businesses from the back of the property. It's really more those entrances, like people turning, people getting hit, you know, causing more accidents. Like we just had an accident right in front of Delzo Grocery not 2-3 days ago. Like it's a pretty common problem, just people flying up and down that road. And at night, there's no lights. I mean, that's not anything this gentleman can deal with. It's just something that I'd like to know that we're aware of, and that's something that's going to, if we're going to be putting in a large amount of businesses, is going to need to be addressed at some point.
And I have spoken with DOT, and they put them so far apart, and they said, well, we can't put another one in there.
Yeah, and that's a
I will
60-mile-an-hour
continue
speed zone
to
right
ask
there.
them, but I agree, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for your input.
I just want to thank him for choosing Sumter and wish you well in your retirement. Thank you for choosing us.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service. Pleasure, council.
Move first reading.
Okay, Mr. Baker makes a motion. First reading.
Second reading, excuse me.
Second. Mr. Eads, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, second reading for ordinance 21-9, RG 2122 is passed. Thank you. Ordinance number 21-969, Mr. Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, ordinance 21-969 will provide a mechanism to encourage private development of economic development spec buildings. The way it would work is private development applicants would apply for low interest loans to assist with the construction of spec buildings. The basic terms would be that the maximum amount of such a loan would be the lesser of $2 million, 25% of the entire project budget. The interest rate would be no less than the amount that the county would earn, as it is earning on whatever the bank pays on the deposit that we have. It's administered by the Sumter County Treasurer. And it would be secured by a mortgage, and the mortgage would have to be paid off in full. The note would have to be paid off in full. Mortgage set aside on either sale of the real property or the occupation of the real property. If you take any questions prior to the public hearing.
We also have a public hearing before second reading. Anyone wishing to speak for or against ordinance 21-969 as presented by Mr. Bryant? Please proceed to the podium. State your name for the record. Hearing none, public session is closed. Pleasure, council. Move for approval.
Second.
Approved by Mr. Eden, seconded by Mr. Bacon. Any discussion?
Are these just gonna be in industrial parks? They couldn't put one in investor, because they gotta be in one of our industrial parks, right?
Yes. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve second reading. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, come down to committee reports, Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee met this afternoon, and we received a executive briefing in closed door session related to some law enforcement issues at the Sheriff's Department. We also were very happy to receive information related to the Sheriff's Office receiving a grant which would allow them to put 5 additional school resource officers in public schools across Sumter County. I think the grant was for the amount of $400,000, so we're very, very pleased about that, and I expect you will see the results from this shortly. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. We did have a special meeting of Sumter County Council today where council received information on the initial proposed council redistricting based on the 2020 census. This is an initial run. It's not the final by any means, but we did receive information concerning that. Monthly reports, Ms. Blair.
The first report council members have will be the,
Oh, I'm Ms. Blair, I'm sorry. Do I have any reports from council members on any other meetings, trainings, or conferences?
Well, I would just like to thank our county administrator and our Madam Clerk for coming out to my district and of course other districts as well to get the public's input on a proposed extension of the Penny for Progress. Those meetings have proven to be very effective, and not only do we hear from citizens on possible projects, but we get a chance to hear some issues that they really need our ear and our concerns on. And so I can appreciate that, and thank you so much for setting those up. And I look forward to the one that's coming up Thursday evening at 6 at the Ebenezer Community Center. And I think Councilman Baker and I share that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Chairman.
Baker. Yeah, Ebenezer.
Ebenezer.
Yes.
Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to follow up on comments from Council Lady from Shiloh and share with you that, as you know, my folks had a subsequent meeting outside of the meeting with council to figure out the direction that our district wanted to go in. And of course, as I mentioned at the last council meeting, the number one piece on our wish list was county roads. And so they have asked me to express that on behalf of the entire constituency in District 1, which would include paving, resurfacing, rocking, addressing the maintenance schedules in a timely fashion as well. And they have gone a step forward in their request, and I want to have the opportunity to visit with staff about that before I discuss it publicly. But I just want to footnote that I will be back to talk about the penny tax and any amendments or additions that our folks feel like need to be made. So I just want to put a marker down for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Anyone else? Monthly reports.
the Public Works Committee, Public Works Department report is in the packet, as well as the Chamber of Commerce 50th anniversary retreat is in there. I can't get to it right this minute, but what's next is the Sheriff's Department activity report for the month of December. And last but not least, the COVID report is in council's packet. That's it.
Mr. Administrator?
Mr. Chair, quickly, and Ms. McGaney, thank you so much for those kind comments. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to visit around the county, particularly the rural areas. And I want to thank council members, particularly those that these meetings were located in your district and you were able to come out and attend those meetings. I know that it meant a lot to the citizens, but it meant a great deal to the staff as well to have you there and show your support. We are wrapping up, as you mentioned, these rural community meetings. We have in total 7 meetings that were scheduled, with one to follow on the last one to follow on Thursday at Ebenezer. As mentioned, I would estimate that we had better than 150 folks participate in the meetings overall. Now we are moving on to the next phase of the capital penny sales tax process by setting up meetings with what we call the stakeholders. The first group would be the other incorporated areas in Sumter County, to include the city of Sumter, the town of Pinewood, the town of Maysville. We will be having individual meetings with those folks. We will also have meetings scheduled with groups like the Economic Development Board to talk about economic interest, the Chamber of Commerce, and Central Carolina, which is an eligible entity for these funds, just to name a few. Then once we compile all that information, we will then review the projects and start providing estimates for the cost of those projects, which become very important. As you can imagine, last time we had well over $200 million worth of requests and just approximately $79 million, which is available funds. So it becomes an important part of this process. So that will give staff an opportunity to review those. And again, it will just be a rough estimate. We will then pass this information along to a newly formed penny commission, which will be the last part of February, which then they will have approximately a month and a half to review that information and get additional information from staff and individuals that may have submitted, so that they can then make the decision to determine what that final list of projects might look like to send to our county council. Then they will have the authority to either approve or deny the request of projects to go to the referendum in November. So I'm just laying it all out in a constant manner so everybody kind of understands this is a long process and a lot of work goes into it. And we take baby steps and we eventually get to what we feel comfortable as a final list of projects for the capital penny sales tax to be on the November 2022 referendum. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Come down to the public comment section.
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, I'd like to, what I've been doing in the past, report on the military veterans in Sumter County. And I'm going to get that report, but I'm also looking at the report that's on the chart on the wall there. And I am again very concerned about the number of people in Sumter County that's unvaccinated. And as we know, the majority of the problems in this country, as well as in this county, is caused by unvaccinated people. They are taking up probably 80 to 90% of the bed space in our hospitals, as well as our ICU. So again, I'm going to encourage people in Sumter County to get vaccinated, because we will never solve this problem as long as we have people who are walking around spreading the virus because they're unvaccinated. Now, as far as veterans, as of January 11th, we have now over 208 veterans that have died in the last 400 days since December 8th, 13 months ago. Every 46 hours, a veteran dies. So that's every other day. We have men who have served this country dying. And I just like to recognize these men, because some of them are friends of mine who are in military groups with me, with peer groups and so forth, and I talk to them. But here are demographics of the 208 people that have died. The average age is 75, so it's not that old. Age range 27 to 100, of course. When we look at the race, Caucasians, 143, which is about 69%. African Americans, 65, which is 31%. Looking at the branch of service, of course, this being an Air Force installation, but we have Army. 95 members who have died are Air Force, 73 Army, 15 Navy, 6 Marine, National Guard 10, and 9 that are unknown. So again, I'm looking at our veterans that are passing away. I'm looking at this chart where it says 42 of the veterans that have died from COVID-19. So again, I'm just encouraging people to get vaccinated. From what I've read in the paper this morning, where the schools are beginning to close, this virus is real. And I don't know what we can do to encourage people to be concerned not only for themselves, but for other people. So my last word, and Madam Clerk, I want you to put it in the minutes that Councilman Baton is encouraging all the citizens of Sumter County who are 5 years of age 5 and above to get vaccinated. It's time for us to get control of this virus that's killing so many people in our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Come down to the public comment section of our agenda. Anyone wishing to address council, be limited to 3 minutes. Please make your comments through the chair. Anyone wishing to address council, please proceed to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. Yes, George Bates, Butchfield, Cougar Way. I have 4 things I'd like to ask County Council to help us citizens with. Number 1, we have 14 slots missing from the Sheriff's Department. We'd like the manning increase so that we can get increased response times out to the communities that the Sheriff's Department covers. Now, earlier we discussed that 5 resource officers have been approved. Are those out of the Sheriff's Department? And if so, is that going to be part of the 14 that should be out on the road and doing the job out there in the road? Anyway, still, we need manning in the Sheriff's Department, increased manning, increased equipment, please. Number 2, it was brought up, county roads, 763, 261 to 378 is all toward to hell, pardon my English. What happens is they come out and they put a patch on it, but they don't do anything for the drainage. It gets wet, gets water on it, the water gets tore up, chunks of concrete or asphalt gets blown all around, and the holes get bigger. There's a whole stretch down on the dips on 261. It's almost unnavigable. Please, drainage has to accompany this so that water don't stand on the road, so that the patches or overlays or whatever is done doesn't get tore up and thrown off again. Otherwise, it's going to be back there again in 6 months, 3 months, 4 months. Number 3, I don't know how you folks ever, I drive the roads and I see codes enforcement. Where is it? Where is it? There is property or attempt to correct some of these problems. Finally, thank you for the time, but along with what Mr. Beatty said, vaccinations is only part of the solution. There still has to be masking, social distancing, and people taking care of each other. Even the people vaccinated get reinfected and they pass it along. If they don't mask, if they don't distance, it'll just keep replicating over and over and over again. Thank you for your time. I hope we can get at least 1 or 2 of these items, but please think about them and act accordingly. Thank you very much for your time. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Anyone else wishing to speak to council? Please state your name for the record.
My name's Mike Greer. I live out in Wedgefield on Temple Nursery, right beside the post office. Just in line with what he was saying, I don't really have a problem with 763 coming into Sumter till you get close to the city. 261, it's just like when you get down them hills and go up, it's a big bunch of holes. It's just the way the underwash is on the road. I don't know that you can do much to fix that. But police, I see him pretty regular. So he's just not outside. I'm trying to build a house. That's the reason I come up. But I see him pretty regular. And as far as the vaccination, I wasn't even gonna say about it, but my daughter, she was pregnant, she got vaccinated, and she got COVID. Everything's fine about it. I said, the health is good. But I've been living in one form of quarantine to another, so I ain't been out much, sit by myself. I don't know that vaccines will be any good for everybody, but I worry about my kids. And everyone that got vaccinated got COVID. And it's just the way it is in my family. I wouldn't say it is everybody else. At work, people have COVID, and I work nuclear power plant. So I work, say, 7 around South Carolina and 2 in Virginia. And it's common. Every outage, every work. All I do is just go there and sit in my camper or go to work and sit 6 to 10 feet from somebody. So I don't get out much. I've missed a lot of what y'all do because I don't have internet access. So I do appreciate what y'all do. Somewhere in there, y'all take care of it. I just worrying about my kids, and that's what I'm thinking about. So it's upsetting me and breaking my voice. But we got through it without any hospitalization or anything. They did have the mother. She had the baby on Thanksgiving. I had to miss it because of all the various quarantine things. But the baby's fine. Wedgeville, I mean, it's just out there at the end of the world. That's why I like it. I live right across the post office. Only issue I have with the roads is right across from the post office. Somebody cut all them trees and dumped all them limbs in that ditch. And the road got built up higher than me, so I get flooded. And that's nothing. I'm used to it. But that ditch does need cleaned out. That's just in line with what he's saying, because I never even thought about it. I come up here and talk to y'all about the house. I'm building the house pretty much by myself. I don't know how y'all look at it. And the coach people work with me, and I work with them the best I can, but I got to work 2,000 hours. Material cost 2 to 3 times as much now. I'm not getting a loan. I'm 64. So I started this thing when I was roughly 59. I didn't really get started at 60, and it takes time. So if 20 people built a house in 6 months, I just need y'all to think about it. The way the code's written, I could get inspected every 6 months, and that's the kicker, because it's right in the middle of my break between jobs. And that's where I'm at now. But I can't build the house. I don't have that many hours. If 20 people build it 40 hours a week in 6 months, to match that time myself, it'd take me 10 years. Because I got to work another 2,000-hour job on the road to make the money. 4%. Well, everything's up, everything costs, so you ain't got much money. So basically all I'm up here for is, I'll talk with them, but I need to get an extension. But I need to protect the section of the house that I got built. And the way they do it, it varies, but you go by the book. But I can't build a house in this section and do the whole thing and then say this: the rough end is going to be the hard one. Because then you got to have the plumbing, that's another craft. The electrical, that's another craft. And I've done this stuff back in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and I ran jobs. It takes a lot of time to do that. And my break is wintertime and summertime. And I got my inspections, they're out of cycle with, because it comes right in the middle of it. So I've got about all the inspections I can get to where I build the house and I do the roughing but I can't get it right, and I just got to do the frame. So I'm gonna talk with them about that tomorrow, but I think y'all need to look at that code. If one person, I'm building my own house, I can't match the volume of work that they need for each inspection. And they want one every 6 months. It'd have been better if I did this and they inspected it when I was done. But when I started the house, I had to get the site ready, get it flattened out, get the compaction and all the other testing done. Got the footer poured.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. We have protocol, and I appreciate what you're saying. But you have now talked for 6 minutes.
I appreciate it. I can stop.
And we allow people, and I don't want to set a precedent where everyone can come up here and say, I can talk as long as I want to. So we want to control this. So we want to at least limit it to 3 minutes. I hope you respect that. And I appreciate your confidence.
I wasn't trying.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Anyone else?
Before he leaves, can you refer him to anyone? You know, he came to us with some
Talk to him afterwards.
concerns.
Talk to him afterwards.
Okay, yeah, make sure that, you know that you can speak to someone, talk to the county administrator, and he will channel you to the right person.
Yeah, I usually do that. Just when he talked about Waitsfield, I wanted to throw my little bit on that. I'm sorry about the house. There's 1,000 things I have to do to make it work.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out that every individual that came up here, both these gentlemen mentioned roads. And as you know, I consider that to be a basic service. And we are horribly failing with roads. We have done a lot of other things in this city. We built a $5 million tennis center. We've spent $15 million on the Opera House. And folks are suffering because of roads, particularly in the rural areas. They're worse in the rural areas than they are in the city. And I'm just saying, and it's coming, we are going to have to address roads. And the capital penny tax, as good as it has been, the margins have been directed toward city projects more than rural projects. And rural folks pay taxes just like city folks pay taxes. And most of us in here represent rural districts, except maybe 1 to 2. And we have not taken any action to give these folks some relief. And I want all of you to be thinking about your plan to provide these folks basic services, the relief they need, so their roads are passable, so they don't screw their tires up, they don't create alignment issues, and the list goes on. Because I'm going to be coming back and asking you to address this in a significant way. These folks need help. It's our job to help them. That's what government is for, and we have been failing in that regard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a comment real quick. Sorry. A lot of roads that I heard tonight are state roads. So there are different, and I'm not trying to shirk out duties, but there are roads that we cannot go work on. 261 is a state road, interstate. So yeah, there are some roads, and I can remember when I first got on council, we had 326 miles of dirt roads. We're down to 127 miles of dirt roads and 55 miles of crush and run. So as much as I am concerned about the roads, just like you are, I expect a good portion of the county's part to go to roads. I think last year, last penny we put 12 million or something like that. I mean, I'm wanting to see 17 at least for our roads. I agree. And like you say, you got some council members who are in the city limits. I think they're willing to vote for roads also. Knowing that there's nothing gonna be done in their district with the roads. So, you know, I do think we're making progress, probably not as fast as you would like it, but this next penny, I think, could go a long way. So, just want to make that comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
I appreciate Councilman from Dazel's comments in that regard, but we can't overlook the fact that when you look at the disbursement of money for the capital penny, the majority of those disbursements go to downtown projects. There were 60 projects, and if I recall correctly, and I will go back and look, more than half of those projects went to city projects when you have folks out in the rural areas who can't even drive down the highway because they're dodging potholes. That is not what government should be doing. Government should be funding basic services. And again, if we can send $15 million back here for an opera center, $5 million for a tennis center, we ought to be able to address basic services and roads for our constituents. That is our job, and we should be doing our job. And to not do our job and to put all these other things in front of roads is not what constituents want. That is not what I hear in the street. That is not what people call me about. It's not what they email me about. Even people outside of my district stop me on the street and say, hey, I appreciate you talking about the roads. That's the number one thing we should be working on. And I get it. The city doesn't have a big road issue. They're interested in other things. They're interested in Swan Lake. They're interested in the tennis center, the Opera House, and a whole lot of other projects. We have to protect rural residents just like we protect the residents in the city. And it's time for us to start doing that, because otherwise I think you are going to see a backlash from rural residents who may choose to not even vote for the penny tax because they feel like they're being left out. And that is what's brewing in the rural areas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You know, I'd like to comment on that, Mr. Chairman. And I support Councilman Washington 100% because he has the district that has the most of the vote. And I can understand that. But what we need to understand is that when we have this penny tax, it goes on a referendum. And it's not just people who live in the county who vote for their tax. It's people who live in the city also vote for their tax. And if the city people are not seeing anything in it for them, and all the money is going to the county, why should they vote for the tax? So we have to kind of be balanced. And let's face it, yes, we have the roads. The city don't have that problem. But they want to do other things. Now, what we probably need to do is when we vote for this, when we come up with a project, most of the projects in the county should be devoted to roads. And that's the way we can deal with that. But I remember, and you don't have the history, Councilman Washington, when we first tried to pass a penny tax, it was a 3-year, and we put a water park as a project. And there was a major campaign from the citizens in this county, and they made an example of this water park and say, what do we need a water park for? And they defeated the penny tax. But we didn't give up. We came back with a 7-year penny tax. We didn't put a water park in there. We did other things. But when the citizens went to vote for the second time, we only passed this by 51%. there was still this major campaign out there of people who was against the referendum, who was voting against the penny tax, and we passed it just by 51%. Now, I'm gonna take a little credit for this. In my district, the people came to me, District 7, and said, Councilman Bateman, why should we vote for this? What is in it for us? And Vivian can attest to this. I said, well, you know what? We don't have community centers. Everybody district have community center, but District 7. So we decided to put 2 community centers in District 7, and the voters went out and they voted for it. And what I got back from Voter Registration and Election Commission, if District 7 people had not voted 52%, we wouldn't have passed that. So what I'm trying to say is we got to be careful. The city have needs, and we depend on the residents of the city to help us to pass this referendum. So again, my reference is let us, when we do county projects, let's devote the majority of our county part to roads. And I'm sure when we do that, we'll get the support. But let's not disregard the city because they have needs too.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can respond, Councilman Bateman, you know I respect you highly, and we generally are on the same page. And we're on the same page this time as well. But I have to represent my constituents, and what my constituents tell me is that when the city put these projects on the line that were clearly city projects, the county folks voted for it. What they want is the same respect in return. When it was their turn, they got their turn. And we funded all kinds of projects in the city, starting with Swan Lake, Tennis Center, all kinds of projects. And some of the money didn't come from the county. Some of the money came from Columbia. Some of the money came from the federal government. But these projects were addressed, and we have left citizens by the wayside with not even basic road service. That is not how you run a government. That is not what the people deserve. And we need to do better. Now, if y'all are saying as a start, you want to give half the money to rural roads, maybe that's something we can talk about. But a lot of my folks, and a lot of folks in other districts, even people in your district, Councilman, and you and I talked about it, so I know you've heard from them, what they want is a separate pit for roads. Now, we talk about the city and what the city won't do, what they may not do, what they may not vote for. I think as county council members, what we have to be concerned about is what county residents may not vote for, because they are fed up. Not only are they fed up, they don't have a lot of trust in the process that we are using. The same process that I raised before. The same process I raised about the litter committee. I do not understand why we pass off our responsibilities to a committee to pave roads. All of us in here, council members, we understand where the roads are in our district. We should be intimately involved in what roads are paved, what roads are resurfaced, and so forth. We appoint the citizens committee because we don't want to make the hard decisions. And that's not what I came on council for. I came on council to make the hard decisions. And I'm prepared to stand behind any vote I make. And what I'm telling this council is we are lacking on basic services. Roads is a basic service, and it needs to be number one on our priority list. And by the way, you talk about the city. I read an article where the city even talks about they're having problems with addressing roads. and how long it takes and how they have to juggle projects and do all of these things to pave the few roads that they need. As a matter of fact, I'll send the article out. I'll put it up on my Facebook and I'll send it out to my listserv and I'll send it to each one of you. They quote the assistant city manager who talks about how frustrating it is to get roads addressed. And this is the city. They have the same problem. It's a problem that as leaders, we must address. And if that means that Swan Lake needs to wait a little bit, if that means one of the other projects need to wait a little bit, that supersedes basic service, which is what government is here for.
Councilman Washington, I understand your passion. Like I said, you have the biggest problem in District 1. I understand that. But I think you misinterpret what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that we can make roads in the rural area and our number one priority for us. And when we do that, we can get city support to help us to pass a referendum. And that's all I'm saying. We don't need projects that does not address roads. Let county rural areas, our number one thing is going to be projects for rural roads in every one of our districts. But if we let the city know that they're going to get something out of the deal, then they're going to support us. And that's all I'm saying. So let's not turn them off because we're going to depend on them to help us to pass this referendum. And I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I'm willing to have conversation with each member on council about the best way to address this issue. But what I am not willing to do and what I am not gonna do is allow this issue to be pushed under the rug yet again. So I am in agreement with you, and I do plan to have conversation with all of you before I decide if I want to put up any additional legislation to address this issue. So thank you for your comments. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing us to have this most important dialogue about basic services. Thank you for your leadership on that.
Great. We're on the same page. We have talked. And I have a road issue in my district, so we have talked.
Look for adjournment.
Second.
We moved and properly seconded that we adjourn. Good night, everybody.